So much that could be said about prison. Any inmate, past or present, who has served time could talk for hours about the things they've experienced. The thing is that for the most part, people really don't want to hear it. Our culture doesn't really want to hear it. If you've been in prison, there's really no doubt in your mind that you live in a culture that doesn't really care about you, especially if you're black or Hispanic. I saw so many people with just severe mental health problems, um, ignored by the prison officials, berated by their fellow inmates, just carrying on, living as best they can. The heartlessness is just profound, and you hear it every day. You know it every day. You know that your life is completely being controlled by people who don't care about you. It's not to say there aren't good people who work in prisons, because there are. I met some really good people who work there. But the whole culture, the whole ethic of prison, they have. Uh, there's a thing called a white hat, and that's what guards call other guards who they think are too kind or too compassionate to other inmates. The whole emphasis is on a kind of uncaring heartlessness. So, in a way, prison, in my experience, not only for myself, but the many other inmates that I talk to, and people, including people who'd served time in super maxes and just the hardest prisons in the country. In some ways, prison, it may not be as bad as it's sometimes portrayed in the media, and in some ways, it's actually worse. If somebody once said that the measure of a society is how it treats the least among them. And in prison, you see that it's not a pretty picture. People are treated with a profound lack of caring. And despite all the lofty policy statements by the Bureau of Prisons, it doesn't happen. It doesn't land on the ground. Um, but what I want to there's so much that can be said about this, and so much that really needs to be said about this. But what I want to talk about right now is that even in the midst of that heartlessness, even in the midst of a prison system that you know damn well doesn't, if you're an inmate, doesn't care about you, and um, doesn't care about your family, doesn't care what happens to you, doesn't really even care whether you live or die, except if that would create a problem for them. Um, Even in the midst of that, a certain percentage of inmates actually get down to the truth of what they need to see and learn about themselves. I met people who had sat in solitary confinement and faced themselves so deeply and really transformed their lives. And some of them had found Islam or found Christianity or just found some true and pure place within themselves, and been ground down to a place where they finally found the truth, found not only a place to face their mistakes and their crimes and the real flaws within them, but found a place of compassion for themselves and transformation and a real desire to turn their lives around and to become someone who could give to the society rather than take. So even in a heartless place, one of the biggest lessons for me is that even in a heartless place, there is an opportunity for change. There is an opportunity for coming to terms with ourselves. I remember a kind of strange freedom and realizing as I sat in my cell, it's like, okay, I'm not a so-called good person anymore. I'm in prison for making terrible mistakes that harmed people deeply. What does that mean? Can I find, is there something else? Is there something beyond this kind of frantic effort to be successful, to be good, to be acceptable? Is there a place where I can find acceptance for myself, as I've said before, in things that are really unacceptable? And from that place, I began to see my time in prison actually as an opportunity and a blessing. Was there something beyond the kind of superficial level of achievement that we come to in life? Was there a place beyond the devastation where something truly meaningful could happen? Could I find a new version of myself, a new acceptance for myself, a new love for myself and for others, a new sense of self-responsibility, a whole new opportunity, a whole new way to live? And I learned that that's there for all of us, no matter what happens. More soon. Thank you.